Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Liverpool. The games are coming through thick and fast at the moment. Even I'm finding it really difficult to keep up with the amount of games. It feels like we're playing literally every other day, which is a great thing, obviously, because we didn't have a chance to watch football for so long. But at the same time, it's a bit overwhelming, you know. I'm a football fan. I not only watch Liverpool games, but I watch other teams too. And it's crazy just the amount of games. Are you guys enjoying it? Are you enjoying the kind of quicker pace of games, or kind of do you like the suspense and the build up? I feel like there's no chance for like pre-match build up anymore. You kind of just go one game into the next game, and even post-match after the interviews, kind of everyone forgets about the game because there's the next game on or the next game on, and 2 days later you're playing again. So that's kind of been an interesting change to the way this last couple of games have gone since we've come down from lockdown, which has been interesting. Something that I'm not used to. I'm sure you guys are not used to as well, and something the players are probably not used to. But it does give you an opportunity if you make a mistake or you don't play well to rectify sooner. You don't have that kind of week or week and a half off to think about that maybe a mistake you made or something you could have done better. So it's interesting. I'm not going to complain. Lots of football on all the time. It's a great thing from my perspective. And it was a Burnley game was one of these ones which I think we showed a sign of something which I'm a little bit fearful of, maybe that we get next season, and that is complacency. Throughout the game, I think, particularly in the first half, and I'll go into the first half in a little more detail later on, but we created a lot of chances, we looked hungry, but then once we scored the first goal in the second half, we didn't really come out with the same kind of gusto that we needed to really put away a team like Burnley, and we could have easily, won this game 2 or 3-0, but we ended up drawing it. It doesn't mean that we can't get the 100 points. I think we're still on for the 100 points. If we win I think we pretty much got to win our 3 remaining games now. I think we might be able to draw 1, but to guarantee, we pretty much need to be winning our last 3 games. And so to start off with the Burnley game, Klopp did decide to make again a couple of more changes. Andy Robertson back into the team, Sadio Mane back into the team, and Curtis Jones also making his first Premier League start, I believe. And it looks like, I've talked about this in the past couple of episodes, about how I think Klopp is looking to keep the team fresh. And kind of rotating things, particularly in the fullback and midfield positions, and we saw that again today, and that has some benefits with kind of fresh players that aren't fatigued, particularly if we're playing kind of every couple of days like we have been. But the disadvantage of that kind of approach, I think, is the lack of consistency and fluidity in the team. With one, from a player perspective of knowing kind of who's playing, but also from the way we play, players, knowing, okay, this player makes this type of run, so I know they'll be there, and, things like that. And I think that may have partly played into us not winning this match and actually going on to draw. But it's something that I think, I trust Klopp, and I'm sure all the Liverpool fans listening to this, we trust Klopp in the changes he makes. He's shown in the past when he has made changes that we've still gone on to win. something like the Everton game from early this season, where we were all surprised by the number of changes, we still went on and won. So I don't think, I'm not questioning Klopp, but it's just something that I think he's maybe done a little bit too much of. Also, going into this game, we had the kind of, I'd say, slightly frustrating news that Jordan Henderson will be out for the rest of the season, for the remaining 3 games. He's obviously been, a huge pillar of success for us in, throughout the whole of this season, and it's kind of sad to see him kind of miss out on the last couple of games, and they're going to be tough as well. We've got Arsenal, Chelsea, and then Newcastle, so there won't be any walk in the park games, and we could be under real threat from those teams who still have a lot to play for themselves. So in the first half, it was kind of very much all Liverpool. It was full of chances for us, lots of great attacks, both down the left and the right, and we were kind of we were causing problems for them. Players running in behind, Firmino dropping deep, Robertson making his great runs down the left. But the difference in this game that I called out in the Brighton game is that we were really clinical in the Brighton game, particularly at the beginning of the game with Salah and Henderson's chances, and that was not the case in this game. We weren't clinical. We made a number of chances, and some of them were partly down to our poor finishing, but some of it was down to Nick Pope. He's a quality goalkeeper, and he showed that again There's a reason why he's got the most clean sheets, and you wouldn't expect someone like Burnley goalkeeper to have the most clean sheets because they're kind of mid-table team. You expect them to concede a lot, but it's because of his brilliance, and I think 100%. I think Gareth Southgate needs to relook at that England number one position, because for me, in my perspective, Jordan Pickford just isn't good enough in that position, and I think Nick Pope should be England's number one, particularly going into the Euros next season. But as I was talking about, for us being clinical, I think it was as much about us kind of missing chances as it was about Nick Pope just pulling out some worldies of a save, and he kind of just showed to the players and showed to the world how much of a good goalkeeper he was. The other player that I want to talk about, particularly in the first half, that really helped the way that Liverpool did play and was a big reason we had those chances was Andy Robertson. I've been a little bit critical of Andy Robertson over the past couple of episodes. I think he hasn't had his best couple of games. The Man City game in particular was one where he made quite a few mistakes, I think. But I think this was a game where we really saw him back at his kind of flying best down the left-hand side. And not only the goal, which was fabulous, and we'll talk about the goal in a second, but just everything from his overlapping runs, his underlapping runs, making the pitch really wide, which allowed Sadio Mane to have some freedom and have a lot of play in that inside left channel, which he prefers. All of that was kind of down to Andy Robertson, and he really, really was goal. And obviously he did get the first goal, or our only goal in this game, after a nicely clipped ball from Fabinho in behind. We've seen that ball many, many times from him, normally out to Trent Alexander-Arnold. It also reminded me of a goal that Sadio Mane scored against Manchester United, I think last season, where Fabinho was in a very similar position, clipped the ball over. Sadio Mane finished that last time, but this time it was a fantastic header from Andy Robertson. He kind of flicked his head at the ball, so the ball kind of curved into the far corner. It was like one of these great finishes that you would normally, if it was a right footer, you'd hit with the outside of your foot to get that kind of fade away, and it was crazy to see a header like that. And when you see the trajectory of the ball, you realise how good of a header it was. And I was watching it on BT Sport here in the UK, and even Peter Crouch, who's got the record for the most headed goals in the Premier League, even he was speechless at the goal. It really, really was a fantastic. One ball over from Fabinho, and then two fantastic finish from Andy Robertson. And we went in at half-time. I think everything was kind of going fairly well. I don't think Klopp would have had anything too negative to say to the players. I think it would have just been keep it up and try and put this game to bed. Don't give them hope, basically. And kind of, I think that's kind of what we did. We kept a lot of the ball. We had a lot of possession in the second half, but we didn't really create any proper chances. We didn't really create any proper chances until after we conceded, really. And I think we were just kind of passing the ball around, and I think maybe the players were thinking, if we keep the ball, it's fine. They're not going to score, and when it's 1-0, it's all it takes is one chance from the opposition, and they can be back into the game. But fair play to Burnley. They did get back into the game from a free kick, won by Tarkowski, and then it was a great kind of on the turn finish from Jay Rodriguez into the corner. And I think it was, as much as I could go on about a couple of things, maybe defensively that could have been better, I have to praise the finish and Burnley as a whole for the way they play. And I think here at Let's Talk Liverpool, I like to, praise the opposition as well when they do things well or when they are a good team. It's not always down to our mistake, and I don't hate every other team, but one of the things I really like about Burnley, and which is why I think, I'm not too salty about them kind of getting the equaliser, is that Burnley are a team that have an identity, and they're not, and it's not, not the fancy kind of identity that of a Barcelona or anyone like that, but they're not afraid to be who they are, and I think that's a really, really kind of powerful personality and something really, really powerful to project out into the world. And that all comes from Sean Dyche and into all of the players. The way they know the way they try to play. There is a reason they've been so solid in the Premier League for a number of seasons now, because they have a way that plays. It works for them, and it's been successful, and it's got them. They even got them into Europe. So, fair play to Burnley. Obviously, I would have liked to see us get the result anyway and go on and win, but unfortunately not. But got to put some praise out there to Burnley, because I really, really like the way they play, and a really, really good team. I think one of the things, kind of watching the game and just kind of thinking about it in hindsight, one thing we maybe could have done differently was, and this is kind of not just the Burnley game, but for any team we play where we know they're going to kind of, particularly at Anfield, sit back and sit behind the ball and try and kind of defend us and maybe hit us on the break. And that is to... I'm thinking whether we should play kind of 2 attacking midfielders in games like that. So obviously our kind of tried and tested, and I think the Klopp's preferred midfield 3 of Fabinho, Wijnaldum and Henderson. Now, I've talked in a number of episodes about kind of the creativity problem as a result of that. But in games like this where, you know, Henderson was out, right? So let's say we'll rule him out of the picture for the moment, where we have Fabinho, and then it was Curtis Jones and Wijnaldum who played alongside Fabinho. Now, this is a kind of game where I was questioning, do we need someone like Wijnaldum? You know, Wijnaldum kind of carries the ball, but never kind of really plays that forward penetrating pass. You know, he makes some good late runs into the box, and this is by no means a hate on Gini Wijnaldum. He has a very, very big role to play in the kind of way Liverpool play and the way we've been so successful. But I just think in games like this, you know, maybe Klopp could have gone for a Naby Keita or an Oxlade-Chamberlain in that position instead, and give us 2 midfielders that want to press forward and attack and play those penetrating passes, which would help us kind of solve some of that creative issue that we've had kind of almost since Coutinho left, and reduce some of that burden on Bobby Firmino so that he can actually play further up and get those goals, you know, rather than always having to drop deep when someone like Wijnaldum kind of runs into a bit of a cul-de-sac and doesn't know what to do. So I think that's maybe something that we can explore into next season, particularly, as I said, against the teams that sit back more against us. I think it doesn't harm us. You know, we've got very, very quick centre backs, so we're not going to get beaten over the top. Fabinho is quality. He cleans up a lot. And it's not like Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain and Curtis Jones didn't track back anyway. You know, these players are always putting a shift defensively as well as offensively, but just give us something different offensively than someone like Gini Wijnaldum or Jordan Henderson does. So it'll be interesting to see whether Klopp tries that next season. But the player of the match for me, just as we end out this episode, was 100% Andy Robertson. As I said earlier, I criticised him a little bit over the past couple of episodes of Let's Talk Liverpool, because I think he's made some uncharacteristic mistakes from the kind of high standards we kind of know and love from Andy Robertson. But today he showed everything that was great about him and why we've been so solid, particularly in that left back position for the past couple of seasons now. He made those overlapping, underlapping runs, gave the space to Mane to work in that inside left channel, and everything kind of just worked really, really well for him. And the shout out to Klopp today is going to be around what I talked about at the beginning about consistency. I would like Klopp to keep a consistent 11 now for the remaining games against Arsenal, Chelsea and Newcastle. We've got enough of a gap, I think, between all the games to allow us to do that. But I'll be interested to see if he does that, kind of if we can keep consistent and kind of maybe play a little better than we have in the past couple of games. But that's it for this episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk Liverpool. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to this, please head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe if you're there. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.